Aditya Shirole Bhaiya is the co-founder and CEO at Gig India, India's largest gig workforce. While Aditya Bhaiya graduated from PICT in 2017, he and his co-founder launched the startup while still in third year. And imagine, he generated almost 15 lakh revenue by the end of the third year. And at that time, we couldn't even imagine of uh, maybe starting or executing any idea. He opted out of placements in the last year and instead focused on scaling up the startup. By end of BE, Gig India had secured its first round of VC funding from prominent VC funds from Japan and China. And today, Gig India has 1 million plus registered gig workers on its platform. It has served 100 plus customers like Amazon, Infosys, Tata, Reliance over the past 4 years. In 2019, Gig India was chosen by Your Story as one of Tech 30 2019, a list of most promising tech startups in India. Gig India has raised over 1 million US dollars from multiple VCs and prominent angel investors like Mr. Ramadorai, ex-CEO of TCS, Mr. Kiran Deshpande, ex-CEO of Tech Mahindra, Shantanu Deshpande, CEO of Bombay Shaving Company, and much more. However, at heart, Aditya Bhaiya is a PICTian and hence he is here to talk not as an entrepreneur but as a PICTian who has gone through this journey, which will be relatable to most of us, and he'll help us tell his journey and success story of becoming an entrepreneur as a student. Over to you, Aditya Bhaiya.
Hey, thanks, Anyam. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, Bhaiya.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction. I am an entrepreneur now, but in most aspects, I am pretty much like all of you. I've only graduated about 4 years ago in 2017. So I hope a lot of you can actually relate to my journey today. My talk today is not about what I've done after graduating. Instead, it is about what I've done while I was in college, what were the different challenges I faced, how I actually went about it. So I'll give you a brief intro first about how I got into PICT in the first place. Throughout my school, I was an average student. I didn't study for most part of 12th, put in maybe like 3 months of studies towards the end when I realized that things have gotten real. Somehow managed to scrape into PICT IT branch. I think I was the last name on the cutoff list. And now I have been in Pune all my life, right? But I never had even heard about PICT. I never knew PICT existed till I had to actually apply for the colleges. I never really wrote code before college and wasn't particularly interested in software as such. I just entered PICT pretty much like any average engineering student does, completely clueless. Now, there's nothing extraordinary about my journey. A lot of times, people tend to overhype the journey and make it seem like it cannot happen to any one of you. But every single person here can have a similar journey that I've had, or even better. So let me just quickly cover what I'll be talking about today. Now, back in college, we used to have such sessions, and I hated speakers who focused on giving gyan as such. I'm not here to give you a package talk about 5 things that you can learn or 10 things you need to do to become an entrepreneur. That does not really work in real life. Instead, I'll be focusing on 2 things. Number one, I'll be sharing my story as a PICT student who was fascinated by creation and entrepreneurship. I'll try to tell it in the most authentic and relatable manner possible. One of my favorite quotes is from Steve Jobs about connecting the dots. The quote says that you cannot connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward. And so you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. So today I'll be sharing in the first part about the dots that I was able to create through 4 years of college and how they eventually connected for me. Connecting the dots will be a common theme across my entire story. Number two, I will share some practical advice about how you can learn about entrepreneurship, regardless of whether you're in first year, second year, third year, or fourth year. What are the things that you can do in each year? If you're actually fascinated by entrepreneurship, if you want to learn more about it, if you want to dabble in it. So, just those 2 points. I do not have any ready-made answers or a cheat sheet for how to start a startup or how to get into entrepreneurship. I'll just be telling you my story across the 4 years. Now, I'd like to start with the first year of college. Now, when I entered PICT, am I audible to everyone so far? Any issues?
You are audible.
Okay. So yeah. So when I entered PICT, my plan was pretty simple: complete my engineering, study for CAT, do an MBA, and make lots of money after that. Almost anyone who enters college has a plan which seems similar to that. It of course changes throughout, but that is how most of us enter into college. Uh, so I spent most of my first semester doing what every PICTian does. Number one, complain about the strict attendance policy and how BITS has 0% attendance and how all our friends in BITS are really enjoying it. Number two, figuring out that okay, retest is a concept that exists and is done for internal exams in PICT as well. Third, discovering the best part about PICT, Raju Ki Chai, Siddhi Vinayak Ka breakfast, Chole Bhature, and Vedi's Naan. Number four, discovering the various student chapters, be it IEEE, IIT, ACM, Art Circle, you name it. There are multiple chapters where you can actually be a part of. And lastly, of course, crib about how small the campus is and how absolutely no one in Pune knows where PICT is. But apart from all of this, I also fell in love with Photoshop. I would actually spend entire days just following a YouTube tutorial to make some sort of digital art. I was actually blown away by the fact that I could create something out of thin air, something that did not exist a few hours ago, now existed because I created it. That creation is what actually excited me more than entrepreneurship. I think entrepreneurship has been a side effect of that love for creation. I was part of the pictorial magazine group in first year. I remember as an excited first year student, I spent an entire week conceptualizing and designing a poster only for it to get rejected by the third year students. Post that, I found out about Ping, which is the tech magazine which PISB publishes each year. I ended up spending an entire night writing an article for it, and to my surprise, that article got published. Now, designing, using Photoshop, and writing, back then I did not really have any intention of using these skills for entrepreneurship. These were just dots that I was creating without even realizing it. Just doing something, anything with a lot of passion and spending a lot of time becoming better at it. That's all that I was doing. Now, incidentally, I met my co-founder on the very first day of college itself. In fact, he was the first person that I met when I entered college. We were in the lobby, and the second person we met was our principal, who promptly scolded us for being a bit late and sent us to the reading hall. Again, seems like a very random incident meeting your co-founder the first day of college, the first person you meet. It's just a random dot that eventually got connected later on. Turned out that we were in the same class and in the same practical batch. Now, practicals actually allow you a lot of time, especially in first year, to bond and discuss ideas. This is essentially where we formed a group of about 3 or 4 people who would discuss the idea of starting up just for fun, right? Nothing serious, but just discussions about that it would be cool to maybe start up sometime. That was mostly at about first year. It goes by very, very quickly. Second year is essentially where I think most of PICT students really grow and discover what they actually want to do. For second year, so I'd already been through Credence in my first year. I'd participated in a couple of events. And at that time, Credence was the biggest event in PICT. I registered for PISP, and the biggest part for most, I think, second year students is being part of a college festival or a student chapter and organizing something. I eventually ended up being part of three different teams. I was part of Ping, the tech magazine, Exodia, which was a coding event, and B Plan, which was a business plan event. For me, Ping was a turning point. So the thing with Ping, so I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this, but the Ping team always creates a themed article Dropbox, which is kept at the entrance of the lobby. So every single student, professor, faculty member sees this box every day when they enter college. Me and my eventual co-founder were part of this team. We took the initiative, and this box is usually conceptualized and created by second year students. So we took the initiative. We fought for our idea. We discussed, debated, and eventually got our idea to go through. Now, till that year, most Ping boxes were static. It was just a box. It would sit near the security guard's table, and that was it. We wanted to do something which was a bit more ambitious, which was a bit more unique. So somehow we decided, okay, we'll be making a box which will have some sort of movement, which will rotate, right? Now, a box that would rotate seems silly now when I look back at it, but this was the first big or ambitious idea that we actually took up, right? Eventually, the person that I worked with eventually became my co-founder, but this was our first big idea at that time. Seems silly now, but I think most of our initial ideas seem silly when you look at it over a period of 4 to 5 years. Now, the important thing here is that over the next 2 months, we spent day and night working together with almost 15 other team members to design, literally create blueprints, plan, craft the box. We faced multiple blockers. Now, the box had to rotate, so the motor needed a battery. How do we arrange the battery? Who looks after the battery? We borrowed the battery, in fact, from the Robocon team, and they wanted to ensure that it does not get lost or stolen. So we had to actually wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, bring the battery to the lobby, connect it to the box, then go back to sleep. At the end of the day, again, take the battery out once everyone has left and put it back. So there were multiple blockers, getting the motor, ensuring that it is attached properly. How do we get the budget approval for all of this? In a way, it was a mini version of building a startup. We were creating something for scratch, literally out of nothing, right from getting funding for it to setting up a team, managing the team properly, working through issues, designing the product, marketing it, selling the idea to seniors to get it approved. A lot of it now reminds me of what it actually takes to build a company. Back then, we did not want to do it. It was just two people who were really ambitious and wanted to put all their heart into creating something out of nothing. Now, that taught me a lot about different skills which eventually are required for building a company. Meanwhile, in Exodia, that is where I actually fell in love with coding. I already knew Photoshop. I was fond of design, so I actually mixed my design skills with coding to try and build a 3D version of Exodia. Now, for those of you who don't know what Exodia is, it's essentially an event where there's a game, say something like chess, and teams are supposed to code up a bot which plays on your behalf. So you build an artificial intelligence which plays the game on your behalf, and whoever builds the better artificial intelligence wins the game. Now, we tried to build a very ambitious 3D version of it. It had dragons and whatnot. It eventually did not work, but I learned a lot and I had a lot of fun doing it. And that is where I actually spent hours coding, because for me, it was not really learning coding as much as it was trying to create something for the event. Now, by the end of Credence, both me and my co-founder realized that, hey, we make a really good team. We have complementary skills. He could do marketing, selling, convincing, fundraising. I could do design, coding, product management. And the thing with being able to, I mean, if you want to build a startup, you need to have a lot of varied skills and you need to, both the co-founders cannot have the same skills. You need to have a team which is diverse and has complementary skill sets. And eventually, being able to pull off that rotating ping box was proof of it. Again, when I look back at it now, it seems silly, it doesn't seem like a very big deal. But for us at that time, for two second year students, it was proof that we could actually work together, bring together a team of 10 to 15 people and actually create something from nothing. After Credence, I remember this was actually on the day that the event actually took place. Four of us had a meeting and we decided that, okay, after Credence is done, we will build a startup. We will try to create something and we'll try to launch it over the next year. That was most of my second year. Again, spent heavily learning and exploring coding, design, taking part in organizing multiple events. And now in third year, right? So what happens with student chapters usually is that in second year, you get a lot of learning opportunities. You get to explore a lot. In third year, when you become part of the core team, there are elections, the core council is chosen. That is where a lot of politics comes into play. Now, I loved PISB for helping me explore my talent very, very deeply. But student chapter politics is something that I did not really want to be a part of. I did not really see any value in being part of the core team. So I dropped out of PISB in third year and I started working on building our first app. My co-founder, meanwhile, ended up becoming a marketing head for Credence, where he learned a lot about dealing with MNCs, convincing businesses to actually give you money. So third year is where I was actually able to connect a few of my dots built over the past 2 years, combine my set of skills in design, coding, product management, and essentially build our first app. Now, our first idea was very, very lame. It was very common. I mean, it was a networking app for college students. Very common idea, nothing unique about it, but we just wanted to build something, right? And when you're building something, you always think that your first idea is the best. So we just went ahead with it. So I spent, no, I had never built an Android app till then. I knew some amount of coding, but not enough to actually build an app. I ended up attending a workshop conducted by Google Developers Group and this incubator called Pune International Incubation Center. I got a lot of exposure during that workshop. I started building the app. I remember I would download these tutorial videos which taught you how to make a clone of Snapchat. So my thinking was that if I can build something like Snapchat, I can easily build something which works for us. So I remember spending almost 16 hours over 3 weekends to complete the tutorial end to end and have a working clone of Snapchat. Very basic, very, very basic, but it worked in the end, right? We had a database, we had a UI, and it eventually worked. And by the end of it, I knew that, okay, I could now build the app that we actually wanted. Now, at this point, so I was in third year, first semester, and my attendance was already going to about 20%. And in PICT, that means that you're getting a lot of calls, teachers are creating some issues for you. But it was okay. I mean, I was doing something which I actually liked and I was creating some output from it. And at the end of the first semester, my co-founder also realized the amount of politics that happens in student chapters at times. So he dropped out after the first semester and both of us started working on the app and the startup full time. Now, I think it took me around 6 to 7 months to finish the first version of our app. This is where my co-founder's marketing and business skills came into play. This is where the dots connected for him. All the work he had done over the past 2 years in marketing and working for Credence, that connected for him. We made multiple teaser videos and we got the video viral across all the college WhatsApp groups. So it was an app which connected different colleges, right? So we decided to launch with 2 colleges, PICT and Cummins. We thought it would naturally create some buzz and get some initial traction. Everyone in PICT wants to network and be in touch with people from Cummins and same way, right? Now, the main issue for us was how do we get into Cummins how do we speak to their students to install the app. So we had a couple of friends who were in Cummins. We asked them to speak to their friends and just arrange or get 10 people in front of us. We will talk to them. We will come and meet you outside Cummins. We'll talk to you. We'll tell them about the app. So we went to Cummins. We spoke to these 10 random girls about our app. We told them that, okay, we're going to be launching next week. This is what the app is about. Do you want to work with us? Eventually, about 4 or 5 of them agreed to work with us as interns. That got us into Cummins. For PICT, we reached out to FEs. We told them about our startup. We went to every single classroom, made announcements. We asked that if anyone wants to intern with us, meet us in the canteen after college. Eventually, about 20-25 people turned up. Usme se around 10 FEs eventually agreed to work with us. We even tapped our seniors who were part of different clubs, such as PISB, PASC, Robocon, etc. We got them to help us a bit. So on eventually around I think October or November of that year, we launched the app. On the first day, we were able to get around 500 users, 300 from PICT, 200 from Cummins. Then it organically increased to almost 1,000 in a week. We opened up access for MIT, Sihangarh, and got around 4,000 within a month. So that was our first launch, a first working product that got users. Nothing big, nothing major when we look at it now, but at that point of time, it taught us essential skills that we were able to use later on. Again, we were just creating different dots that eventually connected for us years later. Now, once we created the app, right, after some time we realized, hey, if we got 4,000 users, now what? We realized that people on the app actually wanted to meet each other, right? So people were socializing with each other on the app, but they wanted to meet. So we started arranging these themed events. We did an entrepreneurship meet for students across these colleges. What we are doing right now, we did that across multiple colleges, and almost 100 people actually paid us money to attend. This was our first revenue, our first sales. We only made about 15,000 for that event. After all the expenses, etc., we had around 4,000 as profit. We spent all of it as a treat for our interns immediately after the event. Not big money, but in the end, money is money. It was the first revenue that we generated. It gave us the confidence that if we can generate 15,000 rupees, we can generate 1 lakh, we can generate 15 lakh, and so on. Being able to generate your first revenue is very, very critical. The amount of confidence it gives you is amazing. So then post that, we did another 2 or 3 such events. We launched a 12-weekend course where students could explore themselves. So the name of the program was Explore Yourself. We invited students across colleges to enroll themselves in it. We had speakers on topics from coding, art, photography, music, acting, writing. So for 12 weekends, you got to attend workshops and lectures by prominent people across all of these fields. Almost 300 students paid us to attend these series of workshops. In parallel, we also realized that if we are in touch with all of these colleges, we can also sell T-shirts for their college events. We tied up with Robocon, Credence in PICT. We tied up with the main college festival from Cummins. We got in touch with one event for Google Developers Group, and we provided all of them T-shirts. Again, why did we provide them T-shirts? No idea. We just wanted to do something. We wanted to generate some money, but we also ended up creating dots which eventually connected for us. By end of third year, this meant that we had around 1.5 lakh in the bank as profits. Not a lot, but enough for two students to actually figure out, okay, what is the next phase that we can go to? How can we use this 1.5 lakh of capital to go to the next phase? Now, in fourth year, right? So now, as soon as you enter third year, second semester itself, you start hearing about placements. You start worrying about placements. You have these special classes or lectures to prep you for placements and get you ready. you start getting notices in different groups about placements and how you need to be prepared for it. This is where we knew that we had to take a decision. I mean, one of the main outcomes that anyone who's entering PICT has is to get a good placement. That's the end goal for a lot of us. So out of our team of 4 members, 2 decided to go for placements. They felt they were more comfortable doing that. So our team got reduced to 2 people who eventually founded Gig India. At that time, the product that we had was not Gig India, it was something different. Again, we lost those 2. It was tough, but we learned to let go of people. 4 years later, now we've had hundreds of interns, full-time employees join us, work with us for a certain amount of time, and then leave us. We've learned to just let go of people and be okay with it. For me personally, I think I had always dreamt of a great placement till second year of college. But after going through this journey by this point, I somehow felt that placement is not the best outcome that is possible for you in PICT. Seems very counterintuitive, seems unlikely, but placement is not the best outcome that you can have for yourself if you are in PICT. There are other outcomes which are eventually much better than this. Now, I will talk more about how you can decide your own path later. So at this stage, me and my co-founder knew that we had to scale it up. If you're not setting for placements, we need to scale up. We need to make money, and we need to ensure that the decision that we're taking is right and it doesn't blow up in our faces. So we took the 1.5 lakh that we had. We decided that, okay, we need to revamp, we need to scale up. So we rented out our first office, paying 25,000 rupees a month in rent in Kothurud. My co-founder shifted from a flat opposite the college into this office in Kothurud. We had a team of 5 full-time members by now, and we had almost 30 interns who were working for us. And we were just getting started with the 4th year at this stage. Now, to make more revenue, we decided to increase our prices from 300 rupees to 1500 rupees for registrations. We had no idea if students will actually buy this, but in the end, we ended up getting 4 times more registrations. That is how we made almost 17 lakhs in revenue during the first 6 months of your 4th year. And we had almost 12 lakhs in profits remaining in the bank by the end of it. Now, this was enough to convince our parents that we had made the right choice by not setting for placements. Being able to show those 12 lakhs sitting in the bank makes an impact. It makes more impact than anything else that you can say to your parents. That is where things really switch around. They also believe in you. They know that no matter what happens, you will be able to do something. And this was enough for us to really consider doing this full time and very seriously. Now, around this time, we started doing internships on our app. We got 8 to 9 local companies to list on our app. And then one day, so randomly, so back when we were selling t-shirts, we had sold t-shirts for an event for Google Developers Group. We had met a student who worked in that group, who was now interning for a company called CrazyBee. The founder of CrazyBee came to our office because we worked in the student market and his business was on a similar line. So he wanted to work with us and collaborate with us. This is where we realized some of the dots are connecting. So why did we sell t-shirts? No idea, but we sold t-shirts for an event. There was a random student on this event who eventually interned for this company called CrazyBee, who also had a company related to students and who came to meet us. Now, coincidentally, this found. Am I audible? Hey, am I audible to everyone?
Yes, Bhai.
Yeah, you're perfectly audible.
Okay, right. So, so the founder of this company called CrazyBee, he had his investor coming in to Pune the next week, which was very unusual. But he offered to connect us to that investor. We pitched. We got a soft commitment for a 30 or 40 lakh investment, and at this point we were halfway through 4th year, right? So we had received some commitment for an investment. and we were just halfway through fourth year. A completely random chain of events got us an investor connect and eventually secured the funding. So the dots again connected in random ways we could have never dreamt of, but it happens, right? So when you start creating enough dots, eventually somewhere down the line, you will get lucky and the dots will connect. Now here's the kicker, right? So the same founder not only introduced us to our our first investor, he also introduced us to some of our biggest customers. We started working with Xiaomi at that time, which was insane for anyone to dream of. How could anyone in fourth year work with a company as big as Xiaomi? Right. So that was how we got it. Again, we lucked out, but we had all of those dots which eventually connected for us. Even better, the same founder um, was in Pune, I think a year later, where he was going to meet a startup mentor, someone who was very big in the Pune startup community. And he just asked us to come along with him. That is how we eventually met our mentors and now angel investors as well. So one person connected us to and helped us in three different directions, but we met that person through a very random chain of events. But those events only happened because we had worked on creating those dots. So that essentially was my story of 4 years in PICT. We were lucky multiple times to get a few opportunities, but we had to create all of those dots to get them to connect. Now, while that was my story of 4 years in PICT, I want to share a very brief advice on how you can maximize your chances of getting into entrepreneurship. What are the kind of things that you can do, whether you're in first year or second year or third year or fourth year, to either dabble in entrepreneurship, get to know it better, or figure out if it is something that you actually want to do. Now, many people are fascinated by the idea of entrepreneurship, but it is not for everyone. Not everyone likes it, right? So it's important to learn how to explore entrepreneurship before committing for it. So for those of you who are in first year, right, I think it's essential or it's very important for you to participate in the college fests that you have in PICT and all the other colleges across Pune. I think just participating in these events gives you a lot of exposure and it helps you to explore your talents much better. I would suggest that you pick up one or two skills that you really enjoy learning. Need not be coding, need not be technical, could be anything. Just go as deep as possible, just spend hours exploring it widely. Pick any one or two things, right? I mean, first year is where you need to really explore and you need to build awareness about what you're good at and what you're not good at. A lot of people may not be good at coding, but still force themselves to learn coding and really become good at it. But they don't really like it. I mean, internally, they know that they cannot code for the rest of their life. That is what happened with my co-founder. He was brilliant at college till he entered PICT, but coding is something that simply did not click for him, right? But he was self-aware. He knew that coding is not something that he is good at. It is not something he wants to be good at. So he did not focus on it during his 4 years. He focused on what he liked, be it marketing or sales, and that is what he built his skills on. So similarly, you need to be self-aware of what you're good at and work on it. If you know you're not good at something, if you don't like something, don't force yourself to be extremely good at it or don't force yourself to learn it. Focus on what you're good at, focus on what are the things that you like. And I think most importantly, you need to ensure that in first year, you enjoy as much as you can. You need to make friends, you need to spend a lot of your time with your friends and enjoying as much as possible and exploring, and rest is fine. First year is essentially more about exploring rather than really committing to anything about entrepreneurship. Once you understand what you're really good at, once you've explored your talents, that is where you can actually think of the next step. I think for those of you in second year, I think it's very important that you join a student chapter. Pick events where you want to learn, where you want to actually organize those events and work as hard as possible organizing those events. The time that you spend with those teams working day and night in making it possible, the skills that you will learn as a part of that process are priceless. They they are applicable no matter what you decide to do eventually. And I think if you are seriously looking to get into entrepreneurship, you need to identify who are the people that you want to work with. You cannot launch a startup alone. It is way too difficult, and it's not impossible, but it is very, very difficult to do it alone. So you need to identify who are the people that you work well with, not just friends, but people who are actually having complementary skill sets. That is very important. I think if you are able to spend your second year organizing events and going as deep as possible in specific skills, it will help you a lot. For third year students, I think it's important that you don't get sucked into student chapter core team politics. It doesn't help anyone, and you can progress much faster if you don't have to worry about the politics involved there. The exception here is that if you want to learn marketing or sales, definitely get involved in the sponsorship teams for any of the student chapter. The experience that you will get, the skills that you will learn are really, really priceless if you are into marketing or sales. And I think in third year, it is a lot of, it's very important that you focus on ideas where you do not have any dependency. The simple logic is that if you can do it using a laptop and nothing else, then it is possible for you as a college student. But if you try to build something where you need to step out of college to achieve it, and there are a lot of operations involved, it won't be possible for you. So try to go with something where you can execute the idea, you can launch it, you can get users using just a laptop, nothing else. If you aim for releasing something and just getting users to use for it, that will be a major changing point. Once you build something, once you create something from scratch and you get people to actually use that, your entire mindset changes. The way that you think about entrepreneurship changes, and you get hooked onto it. A bonus would be that if you get people to actually pay for it, to pay you money for using a product or a service or an experience, that essentially validates what you're trying to do. Now, for a lot of people, right? I mean, it's very difficult to decide if entrepreneurship is really what is are you really interested in it? Is it something that you actually want to do? And it's fine. I mean, it's okay if you decide to take the plunge in third year itself, or you decide to wait and hold on. It's fine to choose either one, but just be clear about it, because if you want to start up early, doing it in third year makes sense. If you're not okay, if you're not sure, it's fine to wait till fourth year or even beyond fourth year, but don't be unclear. Decide very early on, do you want to take the plunge or not? I think for fourth year students, right? I mean, or when you enter fourth year, it's very, very critical that you take a clear call on placements. The college placement cell is there to help you get placed, but you need to understand that the best jobs are not available in the college placement process. The best job offers are always off campus. The best job offers are done through cold emails and not the college placement process. The simple reason is that when you go through the college placement process, you are competing against 200, 300 other people. A lot of it eventually comes down to random choices and not really your actual skill. So when you're competing against 200 other people, it's very difficult to get selected basis your skill or your merit itself. But when you go off campus, or when you approach, or when you cold email different companies to apply for jobs, you're only competing against maybe at max 5 or 6 people. That is where, if you have the merit, if you have the skills, it's very, very easy to get those jobs compared to a college placement process. So be very clear about what you want out of placements. Do you want a job? What kind of job do you want? Be clear on it and take a call as per that. If you want to explore entrepreneurship, I would suggest that you get an internship at a startup, be it in a tech role, be it in a non-tech role. You will always find internships at startups. That will give you a lot of exposure and understanding of whether it is really for you. For a lot of people, they think they want to work in startups, but when they actually see what it means to work at a startup, it doesn't make them happy, it doesn't fulfill them. and that is fine, right? It's not it's completely okay to want a normal corporate or an MNC kind of job, and it's completely okay to want a startup job as well. But we need to figure out what works for you, and doing an internship at a startup is a relatively easy way to understand it. Now, if you do want to jump in and if you do want to start up immediately, I think it's important that you then opt out of placement. Because you cannot have your feet in two boats. If you focus on placement while building a startup, you will not be able to focus on either one. You need to go all in. But only do this if you are confident that you will get a job easily if you go off campus. If you are secure, if you know that with the level of skills that you have, you can get a job off campus easily, then do this. Okay. And I think the last part is your BE project is a great way to test out entrepreneurship. Live Health is a startup which was created initially as a BE project. The team ended up winning prizes at BITS Pilani and IIT Bombay. Now they're a 100+ member team. The founders are PS18s. They're extremely approachable. So if you want to understand how you can use your BE project to build your startup or try out entrepreneurship, definitely reach out to them. They are available on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. Just search for Live Health or Crelio Health now. So yeah, I think if you're in 4th year, be clear about your placements. Decide if you want to jump in to entrepreneurship. If yes, then go all in. If not, focus on placements. If you're still unsure, if you're not really confident if you'll get off-campus jobs, focus on your BE project as a way to test out entrepreneurship. That is an excellent way as well. Now, I think the last part which I want to just cover is that if you want to start anything, right, at an early age, you need to have an idea which you know that can generate cash. If you have an idea that gets a lot of users, but you're not sure if it will make revenue or if you will generate money, it's very risky, because then you have to depend on getting funding from VCs or multiple other sources to survive. And that is the worst way to start up. But if you, because you don't have any credibility, right? So you're a 4th year student or you're a fresher who is building a company straight out of college, not too many people will give you money. But if you have an idea which generates money, it allows you to dictate your own terms. It allows you to work at your own pace, and it makes it much more easier to survive. And in startup, survival is the key. Now, if you don't want to say start up early, but you are still interested in entrepreneurship, I would suggest that you explore roles at early stage or mid stage startups. In most of the early stage and mid stage startups, you will get decent packages with a lot more learning compared to any job that you will get through your college placement process. For example, at our stage right now, we offer packages for tech starting at minimum of 6 lakhs and can go higher depending on the quality. More mature startups than Gig India start at as high as 8 to 10 lakhs, which is majorly above what you will get average as per the college placement process. So applying at early stage startups is not risky. It's a bit risky in terms of stability, but the packages that you can get are better than what you would normally get. So if you want to explore entrepreneurship without taking too much of a risk, work at an early stage or a mid stage startup. That is where you will get to see it from up close and see if it is actually for you or not. The last part I think is that no matter what you do, please learn how to write a good cold email. A good cold email can get you a job. It can get you investment. It can pretty much open up any door for you. If you write a good cold email to anyone, you will always get a reply. Yeah, so I mean, that's essentially it. I think in the end, you have to be clear what works for you. Do you want to just explore entrepreneurship, or are you sure that you want to be an entrepreneur? It depends on what you actually want. So getting that clarity is critical, and then committing to it is even more important. So that was majorly it. I think Uh, so the whole takeaway here is that you need to use these 4 years to create as many dots as possible. You need to keep exploring and learning. Somewhere down the line, you need to trust that the dots will connect, but they will only connect if you've created enough dots. So that was majorly it from my end. I'm happy to answer any questions or if you have any specific things which you would want me to talk about. But that's it from my end. Thank you all for listening.
This was just so amazing, Bhaiya. Like literally, while you were narrating your story, I had goosebumps because it was really relatable. I have my own startup with my friend, and we experienced the same things that you narrated. So it was really relatable, and I guess all our audience would take some things from the session. We can go ahead with the Q&A session, and if anybody has any doubts or experiences to share or ask Aditya Bhaiya anything, you can go ahead, unmute yourself or raise your hand.
Actually, I had a doubt for Aditya Bhaiya. In fact, this is the most asked question that I can say. How did you handle the pressure from your family or like from your parents? Like, what was their approach when you first told them, "Okay, I don't want to sit for the placements or pursue an MBA, but want to start a startup"?
So, so I remember, I think it was the summer vacation of my third year, and I remember just sitting or watching a movie with my mother, and I decided to bring up this topic. I think what is very critical is that if you are clear, if you have clarity of thought, and if you are sure that this is what you want, and you have shown the efforts or you've shown the promise over the say past year or so, then usually parents will support you. Uh, the reason parents maybe do not support sometimes or maybe do not agree to it is where they have certain doubts. So for us, essentially, we had worked through third year, we had generated some revenues, we had shown some results, right? If you're able to show some results, and if you're clear and you've shown that clarity of thought through your actions, I don't think too many parents will actually feel that there is any issue. I think it's up to how much confidence and how much trust you're able to build in them through the work that you've done. So that was how I handled it. I just had a very clear discussion with my mother. I told her, so more than asking, I told her clearly that this is what I feel I want to do, that I want to spend the next year building this. I am confident that, let's say it does not work out, suppose I need to shut down the startup in say 6 months, 8 months, I am confident that I can still go off campus and I can still get a job at a decent package. So if you're able to project that confidence, I think it will work for most of you. For my co-founder, I think he did not share it immediately with his family. Once we got more results, once we got certain results to show for, that is where he actually approached his parents. And at that time, I mean, it was pretty clear that uh, not setting for placements was not going to be an issue. So I would suggest that if number one, have absolute clarity if that is something that you want to do. If possible, try to show some results or try to show some promise that you are actually serious about it and you're not just saying it as a fad. If parents either, okay, you've been serious about it for a few months and you actually are interested in it, you have shown the efforts and you've put in hard work to work on it, I don't think it will cause much of an issue.
Yeah, like I got the point. Like,
Great. Does anyone have any questions? You can go ahead.
Hello, Bhaiya.
Yeah.
I had a question. So, how did you manage your college studies and along with the startup?
So it did get tough at a few times, right? But I think I think till third year it was pretty fine. In third year first semester tak. What we would usually do is that see, I think the thing is that if you're in PICT, right, you're smart enough. Getting through engineering is not the toughest thing that you will have to do. What you need to just figure out is that how much study do you need to do. For us, that meant that when exams were around the corner, we would take maybe 4 to 5 days off extra, and we would study for exams during that time properly. And once the exams were done, we would again be back to working full time. So I think you definitely need to manage it. If you are not able to manage studies, then it causes more issues. I think you need to be clear that exams are just something, it's an inconvenience you need to just get through. There is no way around it. And you need to figure out how much time do you need for yourself to study and take that much time off. There is no other solution as such. You need to compromise at times, but there's no other way around it, to be honest. There's no magic solution for it. I don't have any cheat sheet. We just had to take some time off and study.
Thank you, Bhaiya.
Hello, Bhaiya. Kamishka here. So I wanted to ask that since you did college support you in attendance and everything, they knew that you were doing something.
So you're asking about managing the attendance and did I get college support? Is that the question? Your voice was not fully audible. Is that the question, that did I get college support?
Can you repeat your question?
It was did you support?
Is anyone able to hear our question?
Yeah, I think it was the same question about attendance.
Right. So I think so. So see, with a few professors, it was pretty chill. I think when you talk to them, when you explain to them what you're doing, they definitely do support you. With a few professors, of course, it does become an issue. But I think if you're able to show certain results, so for example, in third year, I had this issue where so we ended up actually doing a workshop for Android in our department itself. That helped me a bit. The teachers, so the two professors who organized that workshop, they supported me a lot because I was able to help them through it. And so of course, I mean, you will face issues. You will face some professors who will ask you to get letters from HODs, who will make things a bit more tough for you. Expect that. But for me, incidentally, so because I had conducted that workshop, I was able to actually get a letter of recommendation from the HOD in one hand, and I passed him the submission application with the other hand. So things like this will happen. So if you are doing good things, people will support you, but don't expect every single professor to be okay with it. You will find some professors who will make life tough for you, but you will survive. So don't worry about it. I think in the end, I'm not sure if there are too many professors here, but see, in the end, you need to just take a bit of risk and know that what is the worst thing that will happen. I will maybe need to write a few assignments extra. I will need to stand outside the professor's cabin for a couple of hours, beg for submission, beg for attendance. But in the end, I think you'll survive. So don't worry too much about it. Most of the professors in PIC, I think, support you a lot. If you talk to them properly, if you share your actual concerns and what are the reasons why you've not been able to attend or why you've been, say, unable to attend practicals or lectures, whatever, they will support you. But you need to communicate regularly. If you directly show up on the day of submission and tell them that aisa tha and uski wajah se attendance was 1%, that will not help. Of course, they will go crazy. But if you meet them regularly, if you tell them that this is what I'm doing, I need to spend some time bunking lectures or whatever, so most of them will support you. So I've had professors who've understood me and who supported me and told me that it is fine, who've increased my attendance directly. I've had professors who have refused to increase my attendance, who've made me go to HOD twice to get the same application rewritten. But in the end, you get through. So don't worry too much. I think in the end, the professors have to pass you. So that's the eventual thing, right? I mean, they try to pressure you into situations, but you need to hold on. I mean, that's essentially it. And definitely, I think if you have a good rapport with your HODs, that helps a lot. So with my co-founder, I think he had a very good rapport with most of the teachers. So when submission time actually came, his submission was always done sabse pehle, where despite having the lowest attendance in the entire batch. So it's more about how you communicate and how you maintain. You need to ensure that teachers are aware of what are the things that you're doing. You're not bunking faltu se, right? I mean, you're not just bunking and enjoying. You're bunking and actually working on something. You're trying to do something. You have the EDC with you. You can approach the EDC. You can tell the professors in EDC that this is what I'm working on. I may have lower attendance. Can you help me out with it? And you'll find support from multiple places in PICT. So finding support is not an issue with PICT. You need to figure out who to approach, tell them about your problem, and they will even talk to other professors about it. So it can be done. You just need to ask for help.
Yeah, true. Any more
Hello,
questions?
Bhaiya.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
In the start, you just said that you're thinking of go for CAT exam. So I studied about it a bit. So CAT requires around 8 months to ideally 1 year of preparation. So that time comes around mid of third year. So when was the time you decided that I'm not going to go for CAT and instead of preparing for it, I'll work in the startup domain?
I think it was around, I think towards the start of third year itself, I was quite clear that MBA is not something that I want to do immediately. One other advice would be that for a lot of the good colleges in, right, I mean, unless you're able to get very, very good percentiles in CAT, it doesn't make too much sense to attend an MBA college which is not tier 1. And for a lot of these colleges, work experience is an added positive. If you have a couple of years of work experience, it works much better. But for me, it was around end of second year when I was pretty sure that MBA is not something which I want to do. But that's correct, because it takes so much time to prepare. I've had friends who also wanted to prepare for CAT, also wanted to set for placements, also wanted to try out something else, and they failed at all three. So it's okay if you want to study for CAT and get into MBA immediately after college. It's also okay if you want to work for a couple of years, then get into MBA. It's also okay if you don't want to do any of this. But you need to pick one thing and you need to go all in on that. If you keep multiple options open, you will fail at most of them. So that's the key thing, I think.
Adding to what Yash asked, when did you decide to quit the club's part aside? Like kick that off and just focus on your startup thing?
So it was, so I think after in second year, second semester is where all the elections or all the interviews happen for these student chapters. But at that point itself, I was pretty sure that I was not too interested in going through all of that. I had heard stories of politics that happen, all the other stuff that happens, and it wasn't something which interested me, to be honest, right? I mean, I really loved being in PISB for all of the exploration that it helped me do. I owe a lot to PISB because of all the skills that I've learned while working for Credence. But organizing Credence, that is some as a part of the third year core team, is not something which I wanted to get into. So I think second year immediately after Credence, I was pretty clear that I don't want to be a part of the core team. I'll help the Exodia teams, I'll help the Ping teams from outside, but I don't want to be part of the core organizing team. And that's not a general statement, right? I mean, there are lots of core teams. I think that the situation we have changed now as well. It's not a bad thing, right? But you need to be very clear, why are you entering that organizing team for? If your objectives behind it are clear, then it's fine. For me, there was no real value that I was going to get out of being part of that core team. For my co-founder, there was a clear value that he was going to be able to be in the marketing team, get sponsorship, speak to companies, learn those skills. For me, there was no clear value. So that is why I decided not to go for it. So if you have a clear objective and if you are sure ki what is the value you are getting out of it, then go for it. But don't just get into it for the power that you have or the pose that you will be holding. That never works.
Right.
Hello, Bhaiya. Adding to my previous question, I just wanted to ask that not having a master's degree, does it affect in the future, or it is not that important? What's your take on this?
So I don't think it is. No, it depends on the kind of career that you're looking for, right? In certain fields, it is important. But say if you want to get into entrepreneurship, if you want to get into startups or jobs in general, I don't think it plays a very important role. We hire people all the time. Master's degree is something that we rarely look for. But if you want to, there are a lot of people who want to emigrate to US or other countries where a master's degree may make more sense. So it depends on what you want to do. If you want to get into entrepreneurship, startups, or have very good paying jobs in India, I don't think master's degree makes too much of a difference, to be honest.
Hello.
Yeah.
I had a question that how can I start generate a source of income in first year itself?
Okay. So it depends on what do you like to code? Do you like to design? What is it that you like to do?
I haven't figured out that much, but coding maybe.
So I think more than setting up a stream of income, right? I think it's the step one is to figure out what is it that you really like, what is it that you want to explore. Okay, source of income is a factor of do you have specific skill in it. If you have a specific skill in programming, creating software, then you can monetize it. You can create micro SaaS tools which are like very very simple to build, but you charge people money for it. I have friends who build it who generate $100-200 a month using such micro SaaS tools. If you are into design, you can do freelancing. There are multiple gigs that you can do. You can create different illustration sets. You can create design sets, logo sets, and sell them online. There are multiple ways to do or make money, right? But what's important is understand what is it that you really enjoy doing and focus on building up your skill before you monetize. Once you build a skill, right? Once you are doing something which not everyone can do, then it's easier to monetize. But if you go after monetization without building a skill first, it will take you a very long time. And most of the ideas or most of the tools or most of the hacks that people share online about creating a source of income, they don't really work without having a very specific skill. But if you have a specific skill that you've developed, it's fairly easy to generate some income from it.
Yeah. Mayuresh, you can go ahead with your question.
Yeah, sir. Hello, Bhaiya. Thank you for this session. And I wanted to ask you that how your view about hiring the people from since the beginning and how it's changed time to time.
Okay, so I think our hiring process has changed. Earlier, we used to rely a lot on our instincts and our gut about a person. We used to rely a lot on the past experience or certain things that the person has done before. What we've come to realize is that a lot of times that doesn't give the real picture. So we've set up a process that we've understood what are the kind of people that we really like to work with, what are the kind of people who fit in with our culture, and we've created a process which tests for it. Instead of testing for what are the previous jobs that this person has done, what is the kind of experience that the person specifically has, we focused on having a clear process so that every single time a person goes through our hiring process, we find out those things about that person and we then take a decision basis that. So we've changed in terms of relying on instincts and our gut feeling to relying on a process for hiring people. But I think in terms of the way that we hire today, I think we don't really focus much on the education or the kind of degree or anything of that sort. And so the qualifications don't really matter much beyond your first job. I mean, the only place where qualifications matter a lot is getting your first job through a normal college placement process. Beyond that, from your second job onwards, it's mostly about the kind of work that you've done, the skills that you've learned at your first job. So we don't really look for qualifications or anything in the traditional sense. We just ask people to go through our process and we understand if their values, if their way of working fits in with our culture.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about Gig India, like how it actually works. What is the idea behind it?
So the idea is that today, so let's say you're building your own startup, right? Now your idea is working, but you want to now scale it up. Now, traditionally, the way that you would scale up is by, let's say you have 10 salespeople today, you want to increase that to 100 salespeople. The process would be that you will start a recruiting process, you will interview 200, 300 people, you will hire 100 people full time, pay them a full time salary. Out of those 100, now they will take almost 3 or 4 months to get trained and generate value for you. Out of those, multiple people either will not perform or they will leave, they will resign, and you need to again hire them. You need to manage attrition. So there is a lot of overhead. There is a very lengthy process, and it's very painful to scale up companies today. So you will have seen stories of startups hiring in crazy numbers and then firing in equally crazy numbers as well, because they want to scale up. They hire 100 people, it doesn't work out, and they have to fire those 100 people. So scaling up businesses is a problem that we identified while working with our customers. And we realized that using a gig workforce is a better way to scale up. So as the same company, if I want to, so hiring 100 salespeople is not my target as a business. My target is to say make 100 or say 1,000 sales. That is my core focus. So instead of paying for 100 people, why don't I as a business pay for 1,000 sales, and then you let Gig India figure out कितने लोग चाहिए, कैसे train करना है, कैसे recruit करना है, how do we deliver. Eventually, you give us a target that I want 1,000 sales to be done. We figure out using our gig workforce, using our technology, using our processes, how to deliver that for you. That's the core idea behind Gig India. That on the demand side, we have businesses who want to scale rapidly. On the supply side, we have gig workers who are job seekers, homemakers, who are not doing a typical full-time job, but who have the required skills or who have the required time, and they have the willingness to work hard and get results. So they work with us on a gig model where they are not paid a full-time salary, they are paid per result. We charge our customers per result and not for number of people that we deploy. And to manage this entire thing is the core tech product that we've built. So the tech platform that we've built over the last few years drives this entire interaction and the transaction. So that is what Gig India is. That is how it works, to give you a very high level idea. Does that explain it?
Yes, right. So your company mainly focuses on scaling up other startups or other companies and giving them the right workers.
Correct.
Yeah. So, does anyone have any more questions?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
What are the set of skills a college student should acquire before applying for an internship in a startup? Like what startups look for in students, college students?
So I think so it depends a bit. I think it's important that you don't need to specifically have any skill, right? There are companies who are willing to hire people who have very less amount of skill but are willing to learn it on the job. or during the internship. There are internships which require you to have a certain level of skill already before they hire you, but you will find, so irrespective of what skill level you are at, you will find opportunities to work anywhere. More than skill, I think it's important to understand your core goal of the internship. If your goal is to learn, then be upfront about it, but do some research. I mean, you don't need to say, let's say that you want to say get a coding internship, right? It doesn't mean that you need to learn, say, all of Python, or you need to be very well versed with Python, but you need to have shown some initiative. You need to be able to show that you are interested in learning Python. This is what you've done so far. That have you tried to go through any tutorials? Have you tried to build anything? Could be very small, but if you're able to show that interest, then people will be ready to usually help. But if you directly go to an interview and say that, okay, I want to learn coding, or I want to learn Python, and that is why I come here, I haven't done anything about it till this point, then people are usually not willing to help. But if you've shown some initiative from your end, if you've taken efforts, irrespective of how skilled you are or how well you know that skill, people are willing to help you and take you up as an intern. So it depends. I mean, you need to be clear about what is it that you want to do, and you need to show some initiative. Can be as simple as reading about things, going through different articles, trying out very small tutorials, building very small projects. But if you show some work that you've already done, then people are always willing to help. But if you expect people to hire you and then help you, that will not happen. So you need to show at least some initiative. That can be fairly low, but if you have more experience, or if you've done a couple of internships, then it's easier, definitely. Does that answer, or do you want anything more specific?
No, it does. Thank you.
So does anyone have any more questions?
I have posted my question in the chat.
Which one is it?
As a FE student, what do I do? Can I try out different internships of different fields rather than exploring different fields on my own?
I think internships are a bit. I think they are the second step. I don't think you should start with internships in first year. It won't help you. I think what you should instead start with is just create projects for your own satisfaction. Nothing more than that. Don't do an internship if you want to try out things. Let's say that, okay, let's say I want to explore design as a field. Okay, let's say I want to explore design, I want to explore coding, and I want to explore writing. Okay, I'm not sure which one of these three I'm really interested in. I want to explore all three. Now, if you think from an internship as the only answer, it will not work. So remove the notion that internships are a way for you to explore. It's one of the ways to explore, yes, but there are multiple ways, multiple easier ways, which take less commitment, which are more accessible for you to do. So if it's coding, right, so you'll find multiple tutorials, you can find projects. If you're able to build those projects, right, automatically you'll understand if you like doing it, if you like creating a website, creating small apps, if that gives you any happiness, if that makes you excited, right, creating that from scratch excites you, or if it's design, right, you'll find lots of online design challenges, you'll find a large design community, you'll find different tools that you can learn. If you're able to try out these tutorials, build certain small things for yourself, share them with your friends, share them online, and see if you actually like doing that. That is much better than doing an internship at an FE level. It allows you to explore multiple things very easily. It's 100% in your control. And if you like that, then it automatically becomes a stepping stone to an internship. Because you've done these 3-4 projects, it's easier to show that on your resume and convince someone to give you an internship to explore much more into that field. So internships, I feel you should keep a step 2 where you are trying to explore a specific field that you already know you like. But if you're unsure of what is it that you like, focus more on building small projects for yourself, something that you can do within a weekend. Okay? Pick a weekend, try out something, You'll find lots of tutorials, lots of guides, etc. Try doing it. If it excites you, if it makes you happy, try it more. Once you do this 3-4 times, you will then know if you actually want to do an internship for it, because internship is a commitment, right? You need to spend 2 or 3 months to actually make sense of it. So don't go into that level of commitment unless you are sure about it. Um, and don't think that internship is the only way to explore what you want to do. There are multiple ways, easier ways that you can do it yourself uh, as well. So that's essentially the answer, I feel.
Yeah. So there's the next question. Shiv Prasad has asked,
Yeah.
for which things we have to give more importance? First is focusing more on curriculum for marks, or improve our skills by doing extracurricular activities like internships, participate in coding challenges, or such more things. So which is more important from above?
I feel it's the second. I think, see, marks specifically, I honestly don't feel matter much beyond your fourth year. Matlab, they only matter for the placement process where there is certain criteria that 55% के ऊपर होना चाहिए aggregate or 60% के ऊपर होना चाहिए. That's the only place where you will maybe feel a bit sad about it. But beyond that, out in the real world, if you're applying off campus, I don't think there are too many companies which focus too much on marks. You'll find loads and loads of really nice companies who don't even look at your resume, but focus more on the kind of work that you've done, what kind of personality do you have, and what are the projects that you've built. So I think without neglecting, well, that doesn't mean that you neglect marks 100%, but I don't think they are more important. I definitely feel that improving your skills is more important.
Yeah. Any more questions? You can unmute and ask directly. This session could have been more amazing, like if we would have it physically. Hope to see you, Aditya Bhaiya, in college when college starts physically.
Yeah, I would definitely love to visit.
Yeah. So if there are no more questions, we'd like to conclude the session. It was just amazing to relate to your story, Aditya Bhaiya, and 100%. Some of the other things would have clicked. Even if it clicks one person in the meet, this session is successful because I could relate. So many of them here would definitely relate because we are just in our first years and second years, and the story you narrated today was the same almost. So thank you so much for your time, and hope to see you physically soon.
Yeah, just one last thing from my end, right? So for all of you who are, say, looking to explore or who want to work in either internships or full-time roles across tech or non-tech, we are hiring. And even if you're not looking for it, if you just want to explore entrepreneurship, if you want to ask anything, if you have anything that you need help with, right? Feel free to reach out to me. I'm available on LinkedIn. I always reply to people from PICT. Plus, you can also email me on my email. So I'm just dropping my email in the chat. Feel free to email me. I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I'll share this email in the WhatsApp groups as well. So if anyone wants to explore more in entrepreneurship or maybe any existing domain, you can mail on this email ID. Aditya Bhaiya, we'll take a snap.
Sure.
Everybody please on your cameras.
Done.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to Aditya Bhaiya's story.